Alliance headquarters fell silent as the emergency signal echoed through the speakers. Blue-skinned Ambassador Trell looked at the holographic display with growing concern. His 4 eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of extreme stress among his kind. "Play it again," he ordered, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into standard galactic speech. The message repeated, "This is Colony Vega Prime. We are under attack. Unknown hostile force. Heavy casualties. Request immediate military assistance. Please, they're breaking through the outer defenses." The transmission ended with screams and static. Around the circular table, representatives from 12 peaceful species shifted uncomfortably. None of their civilizations had faced serious warfare in over 300 years. Their combined defense forces were mainly ceremonial, used for parades and occasional asteroid deflection. "The attack patterns match the Scourge," said Loom, the Alliance's chief scientist. Her tentacles gently manipulated the controls, showing the advancing enemy forces. "They have already consumed half the colony. Their biological ships absorb all organic matter." "How long until they reach the main settlement?" asked Trell. 8 hours at most. The room erupted in worried chatter. Vega Prime housed over 30,000 colonists from various Alliance species. Trell raised his upper limbs, calling for order. "We must contact them," he said finally, his voice heavy with reluctance. Everyone knew who them meant. "The humans," gasped Morrow, the eldest council member. "They are barely civilized. We only accepted them into the Alliance because their system sits at a strategic location." "They are warriors," countered Trell. "Their planet, Earth, is classified as a death world. Their bodies evolved to survive conditions that would kill most of us instantly. They breathe oxygen for stars' sake." "And their history," Loom added quietly. "Thousands of years of warfare before they even reached space." Trell nodded grimly. "Exactly why we need them now." The vote was quick. With no viable alternatives, the Council approved the request for human assistance. Trell himself composed the message, careful to include details that might appeal to the humans' protective instincts rather than their bloodlust. Admiral Jack Stone stood on the observation deck of the UES Thunderstrike, watching his pilots run combat drills near Jupiter. At 55, his hair had turned completely gray, but his body remained powerful, the result of a lifetime in space and the enhanced gravity training all human military personnel endured. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "priority message from the Alliance." Stone read the transmission twice, his weathered face showing no emotion. The distress call included visuals of the Scourge, insect-like creatures that moved as one mind, stripping planets of all resources including living beings. "How far is Vega Prime?" he asked. 3 days at maximum warp, sir." Stone nodded. He had been waiting for this moment since Earth joined the Alliance 5 years ago. The peaceful aliens had always viewed humans with a mixture of fear and suspicion. They called Earth a death world because of its high gravity, extreme weather, and abundance of predators, conditions that had forged humanity into something the rest of the galaxy found terrifying. Now they needed that terrifying strength. "Send the response." Human fleet responding. ETA 72 hours. Hold position. Stone's voice was calm but held an edge of steel. "Then signal all ships. Battle stations. We launch in 30 minutes." As the crew rushed to prepare, Stone looked again at the image of the Scourge ships surrounding Vega Prime. His lips curved into a slight smile. The galaxy was about to learn why you don't mess with the neighbors of a Death World species. The command center of Jupiter Station buzzed with activity as Admiral Stone's orders spread throughout the human fleet. On the main view screen, 21 warships moved into formation, massive vessels bristling with weapons that made even their allies nervous. Captain Mark Davis strode onto the bridge of the Thunderstrike, the flagship of the fleet. At 43, he was younger than Stone, but equally respected. His dark eyes scanned the room as crew members prepared for battle. "Status report," he barked. Commander Alex Reed, the fleet's top tactician, looked up from her console. Her red hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and a scar ran across her left cheek, a reminder of a previous encounter with hostile aliens. All ships reporting ready, Captain. Lieutenant Willis has finished loading the experimental sonic weapons. Davis nodded. Tom Willis was the best weapons specialist in the fleet. If anyone could find a way to hurt these scourge creatures, it would be him. What about our guest? Davis asked. As if on cue, the doors slid open, revealing a slender alien with pale blue skin and large, worried eyes. Neri, the Alliance representative, moved cautiously onto the bridge. Her species evolved on a low-gravity world, making every movement on the human ship difficult and painful despite the gravity reducers in her suit. "The Alliance thanks you for your swift response," she said formally, her translator converting her musical language to English. "I am here to observe and report back to the Council." Davis nodded politely, but his attention was already elsewhere. "Lieutenant Willis, tell me about these scourge. What are we facing?" Willis, a stocky man with dark skin and quick hands, brought up a holographic display. "Based on the data from the Alliance, they're a hive mind species, one consciousness controlling millions of bodies. Their ships are actually living creatures." "Weaknesses?" Reed asked, already thinking of battle strategies. "They communicate through some kind of neural network. If we can disrupt that, we might be able to throw them into confusion." Neri watched the humans with a mixture of fear and fascination. In the 5 years since Earth joined the Alliance, most species had avoided close contact with humans. Their reputation as deathworlders made others uncomfortable. Humans could survive radiation levels that would kill most Alliance species. They could break bones and recover. They could go days without sleep. And they seemed to actually enjoy fighting. Back on Earth, politicians gathered in the United Nations Space Command headquarters. The debate was heated but brief. "This is exactly why we joined the Alliance," said the Secretary General. "To prove our worth, to show them that our strength has value." The vote was unanimous. Earth would respond to the distress call with full military force. On the Thunderstrike, Admiral Stone addressed the fleet through the communication system. "Men and women of the Earth Defense Force," his voice rang clear and strong. "Today we face an enemy that threatens not just us, but all intelligent life. The Alliance called us brutal when we joined them. They called us dangerous." He paused. "Today we show them why that's a good thing." Cheers erupted across the fleet. Neri flinched at the sound. "The scourge consumes everything in its path," Stone continued. "But it has never faced humans before. It has never faced deathworlders who evolved fighting predators and each other. We will not just defeat this enemy, we will make sure it never threatens anyone again." As the fleet prepared to enter warp space, Neri approached Captain Davis. "Your people seem eager for battle," she said carefully. Davis looked at her, his expression serious. "We protect what's ours, Neri. And since we joined the Alliance, that includes you." The engines roared to life, and the fleet disappeared into the darkness of space, racing toward Vega Prime and the waiting enemy. The massive human warships sliced through warp space, their engines pushing beyond safety limits. The journey to Vega Prime would normally take 5 days, but Admiral Stone had ordered maximum speed. They would arrive in 3. Neri watched from the observation deck as strange colors of faster-than-light travel swirled outside. Her 4-fingered hand gripped the railing tightly. The ship's artificial gravity was set to Earth normal, 70% stronger than what her body was designed for. Each step felt like walking through thick mud while carrying a heavy backpack. "You should see the training room," a voice said behind her. She turned to find Commander Reed standing there, her uniform damp with sweat. "We set the gravity to triple Earth normal during combat drills," Reed explained. "Makes us stronger, faster. When we fight in standard gravity, it feels like we're almost floating." Neri tried to imagine the strain of such conditions. Her people would be crushed instantly. "May I observe?" she asked hesitantly. Reed nodded and led her through the corridors to a large chamber where dozens of humans were engaged in what looked like controlled violence. Some lifted metal bars loaded with weights, others fought in pairs, their bodies slamming against each other with force that made Neri wince. Captain Davis spotted them and approached. His breathing was barely elevated despite just finishing what appeared to be an intense physical exercise. "Enjoying the tour?" he asked Neri. "It's educational," she replied carefully. "Your species seems very focused on physical power." Davis smiled. "It's how we survived on Earth. Our planet tried to kill us every day. Predators, storms, diseases. We had to become stronger than everything around us." In another section of the training room, Lieutenant Willis was demonstrating a new weapon to a group of soldiers. Neri moved closer to listen. "The Scourge operates as one mind," Willis explained. "Our sonic disruptors should scramble their neural network. Think of it like giving a massive headache to a creature with a million bodies." "Will it kill them?" one soldier asked. "Maybe not immediately, but it will break their connection. Make them fight as individuals instead of a hive." "Then we kill them," another soldier said matter-of-factly. The casual way they discussed violence made Neri's skin pale to an almost white shade, a sign of distress in her species. Davis noticed her reaction. "Does our approach bother you?" "The Alliance prefers diplomatic solutions," she said. "And how's that working against the Scourge?" Davis asked, not unkindly. Before she could answer, the ship's communication system activated. Admiral Stone's voice filled the room. "Attention all personnel. We've received updated intelligence from Vega Prime. The situation has deteriorated. Half the colony is gone, and the Scourge is advancing faster than expected." The room fell silent as Stone continued. "I'm pushing our engines beyond recommended limits. New arrival time: 36 hours. Prepare all weapons and combat teams. This won't be easy." As the announcement ended, Neri expected to see fear on the human faces around her. Instead, she saw determination, even eagerness. "Why aren't you afraid?" she asked Davis quietly. The captain considered her question seriously. "We are afraid," he admitted. "But humans learned long ago that fear can be useful. It sharpens us, makes us dangerous." He looked around at his crew, his expression proud. "And right now, the Scourge could use something to fear." The human fleet dropped out of warp space at the edge of the Vega Prime system. The view on the main screen of the Thunderstrike showed a planet partially covered in darkness. Not natural night, but a seething mass of Scourge ships blocking out the sun. "Battle formations," Admiral Stone ordered, his voice calm despite the grim sight before them. The 21 human warships moved with surprising grace, forming a pattern that confused Neri. Instead of the standard defensive circle used by Alliance forces, the humans created what Commander Reed called a spear formation, designed not to defend, but to attack. "All weapons hot," Captain Davis announced. "Fighter squadrons, prepare to launch on my mark." Lieutenant Willis stood at the weapons console, his fingers dancing across the controls as he made final adjustments to the sonic disruptors. "Ready, Captain." Neri watched as the human crew performed their duties with practiced efficiency. There was no panic, no hesitation, just the smooth operation of a predator species preparing to hunt. "The Scourge are changing direction," Reed reported. "They've detected us." On the screen, hundreds of biological ships broke away from the planet and moved toward the human fleet. They resembled massive insects, with glowing veins pulsing along their dark exoskeletons. "Launch fighters," Davis ordered. Smaller ships poured from the larger vessels, piloted by humans who volunteered for the most dangerous role in space combat. Neri had studied human history during the journey. These fighters were like the ancient cavalry troops who charged ahead of the main force. "Sonic disruptors at full power," Willis called out, targeting the largest concentration of enemy ships. The human weapons fired, sending invisible waves of sound through space. The effect was immediate and visible. The Scourge ships nearest to the blast began to move erratically, bumping into each other as their hive mind connection faltered. "It's working," Reed exclaimed. "Their formation is breaking down." But the victory was short-lived. The remaining Scourge ships adjusted quickly, changing frequency to maintain their neural network. "They're adapting," Willis warned. "We need to get closer. Direct hits will be more effective." Davis nodded grimly. "All ships, advance. Fighters, execute pattern Delta." The human fighters dove toward the enemy, drawing their attention. The main fleet followed, pushing deeper into the swarm of Scourge vessels. The first direct hit came moments later. A Scourge ship rammed into one of the human destroyers, tearing through its outer hull. Neri gasped as the damage reports appeared on screen. "We've lost Deck 7 on the Reliant," Reed reported. 23 casualties. What happened next shocked Neri more than the attack itself. The wounded human ship didn't retreat. It pushed forward, firing all weapons of the Scourge that had damaged it. "Commander Reed," Davis said calmly, "I need a weak point." Reed studied the battle displays, her eyes narrowed in concentration. "There," she said finally. "The Scourge ships cluster more tightly in that section. If we hit them with everything we have, we might break through to the planet's surface." Davis turned to Admiral Stone, who nodded his approval. "All ships, focus fire on Sector 4, Davis ordered. "Fighter squadrons, draw as many away as you can from that area." The battle intensified. Human ships took damage but continued fighting. Neri saw crew members with bloody wounds refuse to leave their posts. One officer had his arm in a makeshift sling while he continued to work his console with his good hand. "Is this normal for humans?" she asked a nearby medic. The woman smiled grimly as she patched up an injured navigator. "We're stubborn. It's why we survived Earth." As the human fleet pushed deeper toward Vega Prime, Neri began to understand that what she had once called brutality came with extraordinary courage. The humans weren't just fighting. They were sacrificing themselves to save a colony of aliens who had always feared them. With the space battle reaching a tense stalemate, Admiral Stone called Captain Davis to the command center. The holographic display showed a small section of Vega Prime, where Alliance colonists still held out in underground bunkers. "We need boots on the ground," Stone said, his finger tapping on the largest bunker. "There are survivors, and we didn't come all this way to let them die." Davis nodded. "I'll lead the ground team myself. I want to join the mission," Neri said, stepping forward. Both humans turned to her with surprise. "It's too dangerous," Davis began, but Stone raised his hand. "She represents the Alliance. Let her see what humans can do." In the loading bay, 50 human soldiers prepared for the ground assault. They wore exosuits, powered armor that enhanced their already formidable strength. Lieutenant Willis adjusted the portable sonic disruptors, while Commander Reed briefed the team on their mission. "The main bunker has approximately 300 survivors," Reed explained, pointing to a map. 4 different Alliance species, mostly civilians. Our job is to secure a path from the bunker to our landing ships and evacuate everyone." Davis looked at his team. "The Scourge hasn't met ground troops like us before. Let's show them why Earth is called a death world." The soldiers cheered, a sound that still made Neri flinch. As they boarded the dropships, Davis handed her a smaller exosuit, adjusted for her lighter frame. "Stay close to me," he said, "and don't hesitate to shoot anything with more than 2 legs." The descent to the planet's surface was rough. The Scourge fired at the dropships, clipping one and sending it spinning toward the ground. The pilots somehow recovered, landing hard but keeping everyone alive. Neri clutched her safety harness, terrified but determined not to show weakness among these warriors. When the doors opened, Neri saw hell. The once beautiful colony was now covered in a black, pulsing substance. Scourge ground troops, insect-like creatures with razor mandibles and acid blood, swarmed toward the landing site. "Form a perimeter," Davis shouted. "Willis, disruptors at full power. The sonic weapons fired, causing the nearest scourge to stumble and twitch as their hive connection faltered. The human soldiers moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons cutting down the confused aliens. One scourge leaped at a young soldier, its claws ripping through his armor. Blood sprayed, but instead of falling, the human grabbed the creature with his bare hands and smashed it against the ground, then kept fighting despite his injuries. How is he still standing? Neri asked in disbelief. Adrenaline, Davis explained as he fired his weapon. Our bodies produce chemicals that block pain during combat. Plus, we evolved redundant systems. We can lose a lot of blood and keep going. The team pushed forward, adapting their tactics when standard approaches failed. When the scourge began anticipating their movements, Davis split the force into smaller units, attacking from multiple directions simultaneously. The bunker entrance is just ahead, Reed called out, checking her scanner. Heavy scourge presence. Time for Plan B, Davis said grimly. He pulled a device from his pack, a high-explosive charge. Everyone down, he shouted, then threw the bomb toward the largest cluster of enemies. The explosion ripped through the scourge forces, clearing a path to the bunker entrance. Inside, they found the survivors, terrified Alliance citizens from 4 different species. When the humans entered, many shrank back in fear, unsure if they were facing rescuers or another threat. A tall, plant-like alien stepped forward, serving as the group's leader. You came, he said simply, his voice betraying his surprise. We're humans, Davis replied, removing his helmet. We always come for our allies. As the evacuation began, Neri watched the human soldiers gently helping the weakest colonists. The same hands that had brutally killed enemies now carefully carried children and elderly aliens to safety. Perhaps, she thought, what her people called human brutality was actually something else entirely, an unstoppable force born of a harsh world, but guided by compassion. The evacuation ships had barely cleared the atmosphere when the Scourge launched their counterattack. On the Thunderstrike's main screen, a massive structure emerged from behind Vega Prime's moon, a ship 10 times larger than any they had encountered. What is that? Admiral Stone demanded, his normally calm voice edged with concern. Commander Reed's fingers flew across her console. Based on its structure and the way the other ships are orienting toward it, I believe it's their queen ship, the central hub of the hive mind. The enormous vessel pulsed with sickly green light. Smaller Scourge ships moved to protect it, forming a living shield against the human fleet. Sir, Lieutenant Willis called out, our sensors detect a massive energy buildup in that thing. Whatever it's charging, it's big enough to take out half our fleet. Stone's eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. His mind worked through possibilities, discarding plans as quickly as they formed. Finally, he turned to Captain Davis, who had just returned from the ground mission. We need to hit them at their core, Stone said. Destroy that queen ship, and the rest will fall apart. The Alliance military advisors would call that plan suicidal, Neri pointed out, wincing as she removed her damaged exosuit. Good thing they're not here, Davis replied with a grim smile. Stone outlined his strategy. The Thunderstrike would deliver a specialized pathogen directly to the queen ship, a biological weapon designed by Willis to disrupt the Scourge neural network permanently. The rest of the fleet would create a diversion, drawing fire away from the flagship. Who's going to deliver this pathogen? Reed asked. I am, Davis said immediately. I'll need a small team. Volunteers only. Every human in the command center stepped forward. Stone selected 5 for the mission, based on skills rather than rank. To everyone's surprise, Neri also volunteered. My people are better at navigating tight spaces, she explained, and I want to see this through. As the team prepared, Willis handed Davis a metal cylinder. This contains the pathogen. Get it to the center of that ship and activate it. The dispersal will do the rest. The mission launched during the height of the battle, While the human fleet engaged the Scourge in a ferocious assault, the Thunderstrike slipped through a gap in the enemy formation, taking heavy damage as it approached the Queen ship. Davis led his team through a service airlock, using a breach point identified by Reed's scans. Inside, the ship was like entering a living organism. Walls pulsed with fluids, and the floors seemed to breathe. "Stay close," Davis ordered as they moved deeper into the vessel. The first Scourge defenders appeared suddenly, larger than the ground troops, with reinforced exoskeletons. One human soldier fell immediately, his chest torn open by razor-sharp claws. Another was pulled into a wall that seemed to digest him alive. Davis fired his weapon on full power, clearing a path forward. The remaining team members fought desperately, pushing toward the ship's center. Neri stayed behind Davis, using her smaller size to scout ahead through narrow passages. "There," she said, pointing to a chamber ahead. "That looks like a central nervous system." The room contained a pulsing mass of tissue, with glowing strands extending outward like a web. Standing before it, Davis felt a pressure in his mind. The collective consciousness of the Scourge trying to understand this new threat. "They're afraid of us," he realized aloud. They've never encountered anything like humans before. As more defenders converged on their position, Davis activated the pathogen cylinder and hurled it into the center of the neural mass. The effect was immediate. The tissue convulsed, and a high-pitched sound filled the ship. "Time to go," Davis shouted, grabbing Neri as the walls around them began to collapse. Their retreat was chaos. 2 more team members fell, sacrificing themselves to ensure the others escaped. When they finally reached the airlock, only Davis, Neri, and 1 other human remained. As they pulled away from the dying Queen ship, Neri looked at the injured humans beside her. Despite their wounds, they watched with satisfaction as the Scourge fleet fell into disarray without their central guidance. "Your people call humans brutal," Davis said quietly. "But sometimes, brutality is exactly what's needed." The destruction of the Queen ship sent shockwaves through the Scourge fleet. Without their central mind, the once organized swarm broke into chaos. Individual ships flew in random patterns, crashing into each other or drifting powerless in space. Admiral Stone watched from the bridge of the Thunderstrike, his face showing satisfaction despite the heavy damage to his own vessel. Half the view screen was dark, and emergency repairs buzzed throughout the ship. "Begin cleanup operations," he ordered. "I want every last one of those things hunted down." The human fleet moved methodically through the system, destroying the confused Scourge ships one by one. No mercy was shown. The humans had seen what happened to the colonists who were caught by these creatures. Captain Davis stood beside Stone, his uniform still stained with blood from the mission to the Queen ship. He had refused medical treatment until all his team was cared for. "Casualties?" Stone asked quietly. "Too many," Davis replied. "But we saved over 3,000 colonists." On the planet below, human medical teams worked to treat the survivors. The Alliance species were shocked by human physicians who could work for days without rest, treating injuries with a mixture of advanced technology and battlefield practicality. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Alliance Council convened an emergency session. Ambassador Trell presided over the meeting, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly as Neri delivered her report. The human response was effective, she said, choosing her words carefully. They suffered 68 fatalities and over 200 injuries, but they eliminated the Scourge threat completely. "And their methods?" asked an elder council member. Neri hesitated. "They fought with a ferocity I have never witnessed, but also with a unity of purpose and self-sacrifice that we would do well to understand." The council chamber fell silent as images from the battle played on the main display. Alliance members watched with a mixture of horror and awe as human soldiers charged into combat against overwhelming odds. "They call themselves Deathworlders," Neri continued. "They evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every day. But that same evolution gave them something we lack, the ability to face death and keep fighting." Admiral Stone entered the chamber, his dress uniform sharp despite his tired eyes. The council members shifted nervously as this human predator approached their table. "The Vega Prime system is secure," Stone reported formally. "We've established a permanent defense force there. 20 ships, 5,000 personnel." "We did not authorize," one council member began. "We didn't ask for authorization," Stone interrupted, his voice calm but firm. "The Scourge attacked Alliance territory. Next time, they might attack Earth. We protect what's ours." Instead of arguing, Trell surprised everyone by standing. His species rarely stood in the presence of others. It was a sign of deep respect. "The Alliance owes humanity a debt," Trell said. "We called you brutal. We feared your warrior nature. But today we understand that such strength, when guided by compassion, is an asset to us all." 3 months later, a new facility opened on Vega Prime. The sign at the entrance read, "Joint Defense Academy." Inside, human instructors taught combat techniques to Alliance species, while Alliance teachers helped humans improve their diplomatic skills. Captain Davis, now promoted to Admiral, watched a class of mixed species training together. Neri stood beside him, serving as the Alliance liaison to the Academy. "Do you think they'll ever be as good as humans in combat?" she asked. Davis smiled. "That's not the point. We don't need them to become like us. We need to learn from each other." He gestured to a human cadet carefully helping a plant-based alien adjust their stance. "Your brutality saved us," Neri admitted, "but it was your humanity that impressed us." Davis looked up at the stars visible through the Academy skylight. "There are worse things out there than the Scourge. Next time, we'll face them together." As night fell on Vega Prime, humans and aliens stood watch together, Deathworlders teaching their allies not just how to fight, but why some things were worth fighting for. The soft hum of the ship's engines was a constant friend to Captain Marcus Reed. He stood on the bridge of the UEF Thunderbolt, watching the stars through the large viewing window. The year was 2187, and humanity had spread across several star systems. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Lisa, the communications officer. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. Reed walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "A signal, sir. Not human. Not from any known Galactic Council species either." Reed frowned. The Galactic Council had accepted humans only 20 years ago, and still treated them like children. Most alien species evolved on peaceful worlds with low gravity and mild climates. They called Earth a death world because of its high gravity, extreme weather, and dangerous animals. This made humans stronger and tougher than most aliens. "Play it," Reed ordered. A strange sound filled the bridge. It was like music, but sad and broken. Then came words, translated by the ship's computer. "Help us, they consume all. We call them the Void. Our defenses fail. Any who hear this message, please." "Location?" Reed asked. "Caithness Arm, sir. About 3 weeks of travel at top speed," answered Tom, the navigation officer. Reed touched the small scar on his chin, thinking. The Galactic Council had strict rules about interfering with unknown species, but this was clearly an emergency. "Send a message to Earth Command. Include the signal. Tell them we request permission to investigate." 3 days later, Reed stood in a virtual meeting with 5 other captains and Admiral Wilson. They all watched the star map showing the signal's origin. "The Council advises against this mission," said Wilson, her face serious. "They say it could be a trap." "With all respect, Admiral," said Reed, "if it were humans sending that call, we would want someone to answer." Wilson nodded slowly. "That's exactly what I told them. The Council forgot that we evolved helping each other survive. It's in our nature to answer calls for help." She straightened her uniform. "Captain Reed, your ship will lead the rescue fleet. The Thunderbolt has the best first contact record, and your crew has faced combat situations before." "Yes, Admiral. 5 ships total. Your mission is to investigate the signal, provide aid if needed, and gather information about this void they mentioned. If it's as dangerous as it sounds, we need to know. The next 2 weeks were busy with preparations. Reed chose his team carefully. He added more medical staff and combat specialists. The Thunderbolt's weapons were upgraded and extra supplies were loaded. The night before departure, Reed couldn't sleep. He went to the ship's observation deck and found his friend, Dr. Anna Miller, already there. "Worried about tomorrow?" she asked. "A little," Reed admitted. "We don't know what we're heading into." "That's what makes us human," said Anna with a small smile. "Always walking into the unknown. The Council thinks we're reckless. The Council evolved on safe worlds. They never needed to take risks like our ancestors did. They don't understand that sometimes you must face danger to help others." Reed nodded. "Get some sleep, Doctor. Tomorrow we make history." The next morning, the rescue fleet launched from Earth orbit. 5 ships, the Thunderbolt, the Horizon, the Dauntless, the Solaris, and the Phoenix, each carried the best humans had to offer. Courage, technology, and the determination born from evolving on a world that tried to kill them daily. As the fleet accelerated to faster-than-light speed, Reed sent one final message to the unknown aliens. "This is Captain Marcus Reed of the United Earth Fleet. We heard your call. We are coming. Hold on." 3 weeks later, the fleet arrived at the coordinates. What they found was both beautiful and terrible. A planet made of crystal structures that sparkled like diamonds under its sun. And around it, parts of space that looked wrong. Patches of darkness that seemed to eat the light itself. "Scan the planet," ordered Reed. "Find the survivors." As the Thunderbolt moved closer, the ship's scanner detected movement below the surface. "Captain," called Lisa from her station. "They're responding to our signals. The survivors are in underground shelters." Reed took a deep breath. "Open a channel. Tell them humanity has answered their call." The landing team from the Thunderbolt stepped out onto the crystal surface of the alien world. Captain Reed led the group, along with Dr. Anna Miller and 6 security officers. The ground beneath them glowed with a soft blue light. "Gravity readings at 0.6 Earth normal," said Officer Ben, checking his scanner. "Air is breathable but thin." Reed nodded. His team wore lightweight armor and carried emergency air supplies. They had landed near the coordinates sent by the survivors. "Movement ahead," warned Officer Kelly, raising her weapon slightly. From behind a tall crystal formation came 3 figures. They were tall and slender, with skin that seemed to shimmer like the crystals around them. Their heads were slightly larger than human heads, with large, deep eyes that reflected light like mirrors. Reed stepped forward, hands open to show he was peaceful. "I am Captain Marcus Reed of the United Earth Fleet. We received your distress call." The tallest alien came forward. Her movements were graceful but careful, as if she might break. "I am Ambassador Ilara of the Luminary. We thank you for coming." Her voice was musical, and Reed realized she was speaking directly into his mind. "You're telepathic," said Dr. Miller with wonder. "Yes," Ilara replied. "It is how we evolved to communicate. Please, follow us below ground. It is not safe on the surface for long." The team followed the luminary to an entrance hidden among the crystals. They descended in a transparent elevator, watching the beautiful crystal layers of the planet pass by. Far below the surface, they entered a vast underground city. Thousands of luminary moved about, living in spaces carved from crystal and lit by glowing stones. "This is all that remains of our capital city," explained Ilara as she led them to a meeting chamber. "Most of our people died when the void first came." In the chamber, Reed and his team met the Luminary Council of Elders. They sat around a table made of a single crystal. Images appeared in the crystal surface, showing the history of their people. "We evolved on this world of crystals and light," said Ilara. "Our planet has low gravity and is protected from radiation by our crystal forests. We developed technology and art and joined the Galactic Council 500 years ago." "What is the void that attacked you?" asked Reed. An elder named Torin answered, "It came from deep space 6 months ago, a darkness that consumes everything. It feeds on energy, both from technology and from living beings. It destroyed our orbital cities first, then attacked the surface." The crystal table showed dark clouds moving across the planet, leaving emptiness behind. "We sent distress calls to the Galactic Council," continued Ilara, her mental voice filled with sadness. "They sent observers, but then declared our system a quarantine zone. They said the void was too dangerous and might follow any rescue ships. They left you to die?" Dr. Miller asked, shocked. "They said it was the logical choice," replied an elder named Vira. "Sacrifice one species to protect many." Reed felt anger rising in his chest. This went against everything humans believed in. "How did you know to contact us specifically?" he asked. Ilara's eyes seemed to brighten. "Stories of the human Deathworlders have spread through the galaxy. You are known to be strong, stubborn, and unwilling to abandon those in need. When the Council abandoned us, we modified our signal to reach Earth directly." "And you were right," said Reed firmly. "Humans don't leave people behind." He touched his communicator. "Reed to Thunderbolt. Send down the survey team and medical supplies, and contact the other ships. I want defensive perimeters established around all survivor locations." Turning back to the luminary, he asked, "How much time do we have before the void returns?" Torin touched the crystal table, showing a dark mass moving through space. "Our sensors track it. It moves in cycles, consuming, then processing what it has taken. We estimate 2 weeks before it returns to finish our world." Reed stood straighter. "Then we have 2 weeks to prepare a welcome it won't forget." Ilara studied him with her mirror-like eyes. "You truly intend to fight it?" "The Council said it could not be defeated." "The Council didn't have humans on their side," Reed replied with a determined smile. "Show us everything you know about this enemy." "It's time the Void learned what happens when you threaten someone under humanity's protection." 5 days passed quickly as the human fleet established defenses around the remaining luminary cities. The ships formed a protective ring above the planet, with the Thunderbolt as the command center. On the surface, human engineers worked with luminary scientists, setting up energy shields and weapon platforms. Lieutenant James Walker stood in the Thunderbolt's tactical room, studying the holographic map of the planet and surrounding space. As the ship's tactical officer, it was his job to plan their defense. "The problem is that we don't know enough about this enemy," he said to Captain Reed. "We're planning based on the luminaries' experiences, but they're not warriors." Reed nodded. "Keep working on it. We need options." On the other side of the room, Engineer Talia Rivera was examining a luminary crystal device. She had been working closely with the aliens, learning about their technology. "Captain, you need to see this," she called out. Reed walked over as Rivera placed her hand on the crystal. It glowed brighter. "The luminary used these crystals to focus their telepathic abilities," she explained. "But watch what happens when I adjust this setting." She turned a small dial, and the crystal pulsed with light. "Our brainwaves are different from theirs," she continued. "They evolved as peaceful beings, but humans evolved as both predators and prey. Our thought patterns are more aggressive. When amplified through their crystals, they create a disruptive energy field." Reed's eyes widened. "Could this disrupt the Void?" "Maybe. We need more tests, but it might be a weapon." Suddenly, the ship's alarm sounded. Reed rushed to the bridge, where Officer Lisa was at her station. "Long-range scanners have detected something," she reported. "The Void is returning, but it's moving faster than the luminary predicted. It will be here in 3 days, not 9. "Alert all ships," ordered Reed, "and get me Ambassador Ilara." Within an hour, Reed met with Ilara and the luminary elders in their crystal chamber beneath the surface. The news of the Void's early return had spread fear among the aliens. "We are not ready," said Elder Torin, his mental voice trembling. "Our defenses need more time." Then we'll have to work faster, Reed replied firmly. Engineer Rivera has discovered something important about your crystal technology. We need your best scientists to work with her immediately. Ilara nodded. They will help in any way possible. An elder named Mira, who had rarely spoken before, stepped forward. There is something you should know, Captain. She touched the crystal table, and ancient symbols appeared. Our oldest records speak of a prophecy, she explained. It tells of a time when darkness would consume our world, but that warriors born of fire and stone would stand against it. For generations, we thought it was just a story. Fire and stone? Asked Reed. Your Earth, said Ilara. Your planet has molten core, active volcanoes, stone mountains. Your people evolved on a world of fire and stone. You are the warriors of the prophecy. Before Reed could respond, a human officer rushed into the chamber. Captain, a Galactic Council ship has entered the system. They're demanding to speak with you. Reed frowned. Now they show up. On the Thunderbolt's bridge, Reed faced the view screen. 3 alien representatives from the Galactic Council looked back at him. Their thin bodies and large heads marked them as species from gentle worlds. Captain Reed, said the lead representative, you are in violation of Council directive. This system is under quarantine. You must withdraw immediately. We're here at the request of the Luminary, Reed replied calmly. They asked for our help, and we're giving it. The situation has been evaluated. The void cannot be stopped. Attempting to fight it will only make it follow your ships back to human space. Lieutenant Walker stepped forward. Sir, may I speak? Reed nodded. Walker addressed the Council representatives. We've been analyzing the void's movement patterns. It's not random consumption. It's hunting. It would have found Earth eventually. The representatives shifted uncomfortably. The lead one spoke again. Nevertheless, this is the natural order. Some species survive, others do not. The Council has made its decision. Reed's face hardened. So has humanity. We're staying. Then you do so without Council support. If the void follows you home, Earth will face it alone. The transmission ended. Reed turned to his crew. Send word to all ships. The void arrives in 3 days, and we stand alone. Walker looked at his captain. Not alone, sir. We have the Luminary. Reed nodded. And we have Plan G. Walker smiled slightly. The gravity trap. It's still theoretical. Not anymore. We're out of time and options. Reed turned to the communications officer. Call Engineer Rivera. Tell her to meet me in the lab. We're going to build a trap for the void. The sky turned black as the void arrived. It wasn't a ship or a creature in the normal sense. It was like a massive cloud of tiny particles that moved together with one mind. It blocked the sun as it spread across the upper atmosphere of the luminary world. On the bridge of the Thunderbolt, Captain Reed watched the main view screen with a tight jaw. All ships, battle positions, he ordered. Weapon systems online. The 5 human ships moved into formation. The Phoenix and the Dauntless took the lead, their weapons charged. The Horizon and Solaris flanked them, while the Thunderbolt held position directly above the main luminary city. The Council representatives are leaving the system, reported Officer Lisa. Their ship just jumped to faster than light speed. Of course they did, muttered Reed. He wasn't surprised. Status of the gravity trap. Lieutenant Walker looked up from his station. Components are in place around the planet's core, sir, but it's still untested technology. Reed nodded. And Rivera's team. They've completed the prototype psychic disruptor, but they need to be on the surface to operate it. Reed made his decision. Tell Rivera to proceed with the surface team. I'll lead the core team personally. Sir, Walker said, standing up, regulations state the captain should remain with the ship during combat. Reed smiled grimly. Regulations also say we shouldn't get involved in other species' problems. Sometimes you have to break the rules, Lieutenant. You have the bridge. 20 minutes later, Reed led a team of engineers in a reinforced shuttle heading toward the planet's surface. They would need to travel through underground tunnels to reach the planet's core, where the gravity trap components waited. Meanwhile, Engineer Rivera and a team of human scientists worked with luminary experts in a crystal chamber near the surface. They had built a device that combined human technology with luminary crystals. The theory is simple, Rivera explained to her team. Human brainwaves, when amplified through these crystals, create a disruption field. We believe the void operates as a hive mind. If we can disrupt that mind, even for a moment, it might give our fleet an advantage. Above the planet, the void made its first move. Tendrils of darkness reached down toward the surface. The Phoenix fired its main cannon, a beam of concentrated energy that cut through the darkness. For a moment, there was a gap in the void, but it quickly closed. No effect, reported the Phoenix's captain. The void just reforms after each hit. The Dauntless tried missiles next, but they passed through the void without causing damage. Then the void struck back. A wave of darkness washed over the Phoenix, seeming to drain the ship's energy. Its lights flickered and died. The Phoenix is offline, Walker reported on the Thunderbolt, life support failing. Before they could respond, another tendril of darkness struck the Solaris. The ship's engines exploded, sending it spinning out of control. 2 ships down, Walker said, his voice tight. Sir, conventional weapons aren't working. In the tunnels below the surface, Reed's team reached the first gravity trap component. The tunnels were narrow and hot, getting closer to the planet's core. Begin activation sequence, Reed ordered. Sweat poured down his face as the temperature rose. The gravity was getting stronger too, making each step difficult. One of the engineers, breathing hard, looked at Reed. Sir, these conditions, they're at the edge of human tolerance. Reed nodded. The luminary couldn't do this. Their bodies aren't built for high gravity or heat. This is why it had to be us. On the surface, Rivera's team connected the final crystal to their device. Ready for activation, she reported. But we'll only get one shot at this. The power requirements will burn out the crystals. A voice came through her communicator. It was Walker from the Thunderbolt. The void has broken through our defenses. It's moving toward the main city. You need to activate now. But Captain Reed's team hasn't completed the gravity trap, Rivera protested. We're out of time, Walker replied. Do it now, or we lose everything. Rivera looked at the luminary scientists, who nodded in agreement. She took a deep breath and placed her hands on the main control crystal. Activating psychic disruptor in 3, 2, 1. The crystal chamber filled with blinding light as human brainwaves, shaped by millions of years of evolution on a dangerous world, amplified through alien technology. A wave of energy shot upward, aimed at the heart of the void. At the same moment, deep below, Reed connected the final component of the gravity trap. Activation complete, he said into his communicator. Walker, trigger the trap on my mark. Above and below, humanity's technology and determination faced the greatest test. The fate of the luminary world hung in the balance. The gravity trap activated with a deep rumble that shook the entire planet. At the core, powerful devices created a controlled gravitational field. The field expanded outward, not affecting the planet itself, but reaching into space, targeting the void. At the same moment, Rivera's psychic disruptor sent a wave of human brainwave patterns through the luminary crystals. The combined assault hit the void from 2 directions at once. On the Thunderbolt's bridge, Lieutenant Walker watched the sensors. It's working, he said, his voice filled with hope. The void is being pulled into the gravity field, and the disruptor is causing it to break apart. The dark cloud above the planet seemed to shudder. Parts of it were drawn downward toward the gravity trap, while other sections moved erratically, as if confused. In the crystal chamber, Rivera monitored the disruptor. The main crystal glowed brightly, channeling human thought patterns. The crystals are starting to crack, warned a luminary scientist named Kavi. They cannot handle this energy level for long. Rivera nodded. We just need to hold it a little longer. Deep below the surface, Reed's team struggled against the intense conditions. The gravity trap was working, but the heat near the core was becoming unbearable. 2 engineers had already collapsed and been moved to a safer area. "Sir, we need to retreat," said Officer Ben, sweating heavily. Human bodies weren't designed for this kind of heat. Reed wiped his forehead. 5 more minutes. We need to make sure the trap is stable. On the surface, a squad of human soldiers defended the entrance to the underground city. The void had sent tendrils down, trying to reach the survivors below. The soldiers fired special weapons designed by Rivera's team, rifles that shot crystal-enhanced energy bursts. "Hold the line," shouted Commander Puddle. Her uniform was torn and blood ran from a cut on her cheek. "Don't let them through." The soldiers fought with a determination that amazed the watching luminary. Even when wounded, they kept fighting. Even when exhausted, they didn't retreat. In orbit, the Thunderbolt fired its engines, moving to rescue the crew of the damaged Phoenix. "Sir," said Officer Lisa, "I'm detecting a change in the Void's behavior. It's retreating from some areas." Walker studied the sensors. "It's avoiding the stronger points of our defense. It's learning." Lisa looked concerned. "But that means—" "It's adapting," Walker finished her thought. "Just like any living thing from a dangerous world would do." Realization dawned on Walker's face. That's it. The Void has probably consumed countless peaceful species before, but it's never faced Deathworlders like us. It doesn't know how to handle our aggressive, adaptable nature. He opened a channel to Rivera. "Talia, can you modify the disruptor to mimic a predator's brain patterns? The most aggressive human thoughts possible." On the surface, Rivera considered this. It might burn out the crystals faster, but yes, I think we can. She turned to the luminary scientists. "We need to adjust the frequency. Think of the most dangerous predators from Earth's history. Lions, sharks, wolves. We're going to channel those instincts." The luminary worked quickly, retuning the crystals. Rivera placed her hands on the controls again. But this time she thought of Earth's apex predators, of the primal fear and survival instinct that shaped human evolution. The disruptor pulsed with a new, more intense energy. The wave that shot upward was red instead of blue. When it hit the Void, the effect was immediate. The dark mass seemed to recoil, pulling away from the planet's atmosphere. "It's working," Walker reported from the Thunderbolt. "The Void is retreating from the psychic attack." At the planet's core, Reed checked the gravity trap's readings. The trap has captured about 20% of the Void's mass. It's holding stable. He activated his communicator. "Walker, what's happening up there?" "Sir, we found its weakness. The Void fears our predator instincts." Rivera modified the disruptor to broadcast aggressive human thought patterns. "And it's retreating." Reed smiled despite the heat. Of course, a species that consumes others would naturally fear being consumed itself. He made his decision. "Tell Rivera to keep the disruptor running as long as possible, and prepare the fleet for a counterattack." "Sir," Walker sounded surprised. "The Void is on the defensive for the first time," Reed explained. "It's time we showed it what happens when you corner a species that evolved fighting predators and surviving natural disasters. It's time to show the galaxy what Deathworlders can do." As the Void retreated from the psychic attack, the Thunderbolt sensors detected a new energy signature entering the system. "Sir, 3 ships just arrived," reported Officer Lisa. "They're ours." On the view screen appeared 3 more human vessels. The largest was the UEF Valiant, Admiral Diana Frost's flagship. "This is Admiral Frost to Lieutenant Walker," came the transmission. "Looks like you could use some help." Walker smiled with relief. "Admiral, your timing is perfect. We've discovered weaknesses in the Void, but we've lost 2 ships." "Earth Command received your data transmissions," Frost replied. "We've brought specialized EMP weapons based on your findings." "Where's Captain Reed?" "Leading the team at the planet's core, maintaining the gravity trap." Frost nodded. Typical Reed, always in the middle of the action. Prepare for coordinated assault. We're going to hit the void while it's vulnerable. The human fleet regrouped. The three new ships, the Valiant, the Intrepid, and the Guardian, joined the Thunderbolt and the remaining operational vessel. The Phoenix had been evacuated, and the Solaris was badly damaged, but still fighting. On the surface, Rivera's team struggled to keep the psychic disruptor functioning. The crystals were cracking under the strain. "We can't maintain this output much longer," she said to Walker over the communicator. At that moment, a group of Luminari approached, led by Ambassador Ilara. "We wish to help," Ilara said. "Our minds alone are not strong enough, but perhaps together with yours." Rivera understood. "You want to join the psychic link? It could be dangerous." "Your people risk everything for ours," replied Ilara. "Let us stand with you." The Luminari formed a circle around the crystal device. They placed their hands on smaller crystals connected to the main one. Rivera felt their minds joining with hers, adding their telepathic abilities to the human brainwave patterns. The disruptor's power surged. The red wave shooting upward grew stronger, more focused. In orbit, Admiral Frost organized the counterattack. "All ships target these coordinates," she ordered, sending data to each vessel. Full power to the new EMP cannons. The human fleet moved into attack formation. The specialized weapons charge, drawing power from the ship's cores. "Fire on my mark," Frost commanded. 3, 2, 1, mark. 5 beams of concentrated electromagnetic energy shot toward the void. Where they struck, the darkness seemed to freeze, unable to move or reform. "It's working," Walker reported. "The EMP is disrupting the void's ability to maintain cohesion." Reed's voice came through the communicator from deep below. "Walker, I'm detecting an energy source at the center of the void. Something like a core or nucleus." Admiral Frost studied the sensor readings. "He's right. There's a central consciousness controlling the swarm. If we can reach it. We need a ship that can get close enough," said Walker. "I have an idea," Reed replied. "The Luminary mining vessels are designed to move through dense material. We could modify one to reach the void's core." Frost considered this. "It's risky, but it might work. Reed, get back to the surface. I want you leading this mission." "Yes, Admiral." Within 2 hours, Reed and Walker stood in a Luminary mining ship, now equipped with human weapons and shields. The small vessel was built to drill through crystal formations, with a reinforced hull and powerful engines. "Navigation ready," said Walker, checking the controls. "The Luminary systems are responding well to our modifications." Reed nodded. "Set course for the center of the void. Maximum speed." As they prepared to launch, Rivera contacted them from the surface. "Captain, we've established a telepathic network with the Luminary," she reported. "We can coordinate the fleet's movements through their crystals. It will give us an advantage over the void." "Good work, Talia," Reed replied. "We'll need every advantage we can get." The mining vessel launched from the surface, heading toward the dark mass above. The human fleet provided cover, firing their EMP weapons to clear a path. As they entered the void, darkness surrounded them. The ship's sensors could barely penetrate the dense particles. "Something's different," Walker observed. "The void is afraid. It's trying to get away from us." Reed smiled grimly. "It's never encountered a species that fought back so effectively. It doesn't know how to handle unpredictability." The sensors beeped. "There," said Walker, pointing to the screen. "That energy reading at the center. That must be its consciousness." Reed took manual control of the ship. "Let's introduce ourselves." The mining vessel pushed deeper into the void, heading toward the heart of the entity that had consumed countless worlds. The mining vessel pushed through the darkness of the void. Its engines strained against the dense particles trying to stop it. "We're almost at the core," said Walker, watching the sensors. 100 meters. 50. Reed gripped the controls tightly. "Prepare the disruptor weapon." They had installed a smaller version of Rivera's crystal device on the ship. It was their best hope against the consciousness at the void center. Suddenly, the darkness around them lightened. They entered a clear space at the very heart of the void. In the center floated a dark, star-like object. It pulsed with energy, sending out waves that controlled the surrounding particles. "That's it," whispered Reed. "The central mind." The star thing seemed to sense them. Tendrils of darkness reached toward their ship. Now, Walker. Walker activated the crystal disruptor. Human brainwaves, amplified through luminary technology, shot toward the dark star. At the same moment, Reed fired the ship's main weapon, a modified EMP cannon. The dark star writhed as the combined attack hit it. Cracks appeared in its surface, leaking bright energy. "It's working," shouted Walker. But then the mining vessel shook violently. Warning lights flashed across the control panel. "The void is crushing the ship," Reed said, fighting the controls. "Engines failing." Walker looked at his captain. "Sir, we need to overload the disruptor. Set it to maximum. And get out." Reed nodded. "Send the evacuation signal to the fleet. Tell them to be ready to pick us up." They worked quickly, setting the disruptor to overload. It would release all its energy at once in a massive burst. 30 seconds until overload, Walker reported. The ship groaned as the void squeezed it harder. Metal panels buckled inward. "Escape pod ready," said Reed. "Let's go." They ran to the small pod at the back of the ship. As the door closed behind them, Reed saw the disruptor's crystal glowing brighter than ever. The pod shot away from the mining vessel just as the disruptor reached critical levels. Behind them, a flash of light brighter than a star burst from the ship. The dark star at the void center cracked open completely. Energy poured out, and the controlling consciousness dissolved. Without its central mind, the void began to fall apart. The particles that had moved with singular purpose now drifted aimlessly. "It worked," Reed said softly, watching through the pod's window. "The void is breaking up." Their pod tumbled through space, damaged and losing power. Reed's shoulder was badly injured from the escape, and Walker had a deep cut on his forehead. "Mayday," Walker called into the radio. "This is Lieutenant Walker and Captain Reed. Our pod is damaged." For several minutes, there was no response. Then, "This is the Thunderbolt. We have your position. Hold on." Hours later, Reed woke up in a crystal healing chamber beneath the luminary city. Ambassador Ilara stood nearby, her eyes reflecting the gentle light. "You succeeded, Captain," she said. "The void is gone. Its particles have become harmless dust falling on our world." Reed tried to sit up, wincing at the pain in his shoulder. "The fleet, my crew. Your people fought bravely. Many were injured, but few were lost. Admiral Frost wishes to speak with you when you are ready." Later, Reed stood with Admiral Frost on a balcony overlooking the Crystal City. His arm was in a sling, but he was healing well. "The Galactic Council ships have returned," Frost said. "They want to manage the situation," as they put it. Reed frowned. "After they abandoned the Luminary." "Exactly my thought," Frost replied. "Ambassador Ilara has informed them that the Luminary are forming a direct alliance with Earth, outside Council control." "How did they take that?" "Not well. But they can't argue with results. We did what they said was impossible." Below them, human engineers worked alongside luminary scientists. The aliens were sharing their crystal technology, while humans provided protection and resources for rebuilding. "There's something else," Frost said more seriously. "Long-range sensors have detected similar void entities in other sectors of the galaxy. This wasn't an isolated incident." Reed nodded. "We'll be ready next time." Ambassador Ilara joined them on the balcony. "Captain Reed, we have received messages from other species. Word of what happened here has spread. They wish to join our alliance." "Which species?" asked Frost. "Those the Council considers too weak or unimportant to protect. They heard how humans came to the aid of strangers, how Deathworlders used their strength to save rather than conquer. Reed looked out at the stars visible through the crystal dome above the city. "Admiral, I think we're going to need a bigger fleet." Frost smiled. "Already working on it. You've been promoted, by the way." Admiral Reed has a nice ring to it. 2 weeks later, Reed stood on the bridge of a new ship, the UEF Alliance, the first vessel built using both human and luminary technology. Beside him stood Ambassador Ilara, now the first luminary to serve on a human ship. Together, they watched as other ships joined their fleet, vessels from Earth and from newly allied worlds. They were building something new, a force dedicated to protecting all life, not just the species deemed worthy by the Council. "Course, Admiral?" asked the navigator. Reed exchanged a glance with Ilara, then looked ahead to the stars. "Wherever we're needed next."